dreaming after you, chasing you in my sleep bag. You know it's early afternoon, but it's the only way that I'll finally see your face. 'Cause I've been thinking about the days when you were mine. No set of rules, and I've been dreaming that's the way we're passing time with me and you. Don't wake me up, wake me up. Dreaming after you, loving you is my problem. I'm singing to your tune, hoping that you can follow the sound waves. 'Cause I'm already pouring my heart and soul into your wishing well. And I would never go the lengths that I've gone for you for anyone else. Wake me up, wake me up.
Nights like these are therapy. I feel my sorrows fading away. I close my eyes to see the light that's shining deep inside me. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. I'm in too deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep, 'cause I'm lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. Na 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 na. Lost in these moments. We break away and disobey. We feel our sorrows fading away. We got tonight to share the light. Yeah, we can make it better. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. Yeah, I'm in too deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep.
All right. Happy Tax Day, aka Day of Slavery. When you all get to realize that you are a slave. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, about the federal government takes more and more meat off the bone to fund itself. It's gotten to the point now where you have Trump and you have DOGE that are working to fix this broken system, and it's fighting back. And one of the things that Jonathan said yesterday that I thought was interesting, he said, Joe, the reason why we haven't stood up and fought back is because we have to fight against innocent people who are fighting to protect the evil in the government. And many times they say, yeah, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. But at a certain point, you have to get to the place where you recognize the fact that they have turned us all into institutional slaves. This is what bondage means in the Bible. The founding fathers began the American Revolution over a 2% tax. And yet we face a nearly 40% income holistic tax. It's 56 cents on every dollar gets taxed. I mean, think about it. Let's say you want to go hunt for an elk. You can go to the grocery store and you can buy meat off the shelf, but in order to discourage you, they go, we're going to charge you $150 for a tag. And the amount of meat you get off of it, you pay, I don't know, somewhere around $1 a pound. So you have to pay the government. That's before, by the way, you get it processed, which costs you $300-400. So you spend as much money getting meat, hunting an animal, as you do in the grocery store. And the government's like, well, we got to take our piece of flesh from that. If you want to go fishing, if you don't have a fishing license, they can arrest you and throw you in jail. If you have water catchments that are too big in many states, they can come and arrest you. If you want access to water, you have to pay the government for it. And I would say, okay, well, it's clean drinking water, so you can, but you're not even guaranteed that. And a certain amount of your budget goes towards a police force. I'm talking about localized now. This is state. This is at a state and local level. Of a police force. And so they're designed to keep you safe. Only the Supreme Court ruled that they have no obligation to keep you safe. Gonzalez versus Castle Rock. So you're not even guaranteed that. But then they go even further and they say, we're going to take away your Second Amendment because we want to keep people safe. And so we're going to limit the ability for you to protect yourself because we do realize that the American people are now at a place where they institutionally do feel enslaved. A vast majority of people feel like they're not in control of their own life. And you wouldn't be lying if that were to be, if we're having a conversation, you wouldn't be lying. You're not in control. And whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not, there's a video camera on the top of every pole. So no matter what you do, we're in a surveillance state where they can basically take, and then by the way, if you speed and you run a red light, and even if you creep up past the line, snaps your picture, sends you a bill for $150. And if you want to drive your car, you got to pay to drive your car. And if you want to get on the road and you want to get home early, or maybe that you're a single mom, now we made that difficult too. We put up a tollway that is just for the elite, so the elite can go faster and not be inconvenienced. And single moms that have to get home can pay a disproportionate amount of tax. See, no matter where you turn, I'm not anti-government. I'm pro-government. I think that we should have limited amounts of government, but all that our government has done is stood in the way of progress and divided us as people. And we've sat back and watched. So we're going to talk a little bit about tax day and what they're doing to us on these beautiful days to make us feel like we're under this immense amount of pressure. And by the way, if you don't pay exactly what they want, they'll come back to you and say, you owe us another extra $10,000. We're disallowing all of these, just disallowing it. And you have to pay us more. And it's not a, hey, let's have a discussion about it. Let me tell them why. They're like, no, pay it now and then you can come back for it. But I did that back in 2016. And then I proved that these were legitimate deals and they still haven't paid me. Because the government, there's no accountability. They don't have to do anything that they don't want to do. And no matter where you turn, property tax. No matter where you turn, sales tax. Income tax. Employment tax. Social Security tax. I mean, just go down the line. Gas tax, food tax. And now you have these entitlements where they're like, oh, well, we have to have these special fees. They take so much meat off the bone that the only people that are actually doing well are the people at the very top. And they have all these, there's 20,000 pages available for the oligarchs. And by the way, most of the billionaires they made the billionaires. The intelligence community, they just hand them over stuff. Facebook was a DARPA project. It wasn't made in the basement of some deal in Harvard. That never happened. But they sell you on a lie. Just like they sell you on the lies of safe, secure elections. Our guest today is going to be Christina Bobb. She's going to discuss the hard truths about election fraud and the reality of being someone who advocates for election integrity. It's not a conspiracy theory. And I remember being with Christina on January 6th, 7th. She was working at OAN. I went in and did an interview with her about Eric Coomer. That piece of shit has sued everyone for my words. And people have settled with him. The deviant, skinhead, Satanist who writes about raping his wife, who has lied at every turn, that guy sues everyone for my words. I haven't gotten my day in court yet, but when I do, it is going to be hell to pay. I've had enough. But she's an amazing advocate. She's a patriot. But they set out to break her. They set out to take everything away from her, to throw her in jail. And so when they said that Christina was going to be coming on, I stopped for a minute and I was like, man, I just remember how much she went through. And I remember meeting with her down in Florida, and I was so angry. And she's like, yeah, but there's nothing you can do about it. I thought to myself, holy shit, she's right. We're captured. There's no accountability. Nobody's been arrested. So on this tax day, the slavery, the burdens that we feel are much, I think, deeper today than they are on any other day. Because you have to admit that you're submitting to this slave culture we have in our country. I'm not against taxes at all. I think we should give up to Caesar what is Caesar's. But we're going to talk to Christina Bobb about what they put her through over the last 5 years. She's a former counsel for President Trump. She's also a veteran. And what they've done to her is nothing short of absolutely disgusting. So I'm going to slow it down and let her speak. Then after that, we're going to dive a little bit into global affairs, talk a little bit about what's going on in the UK. They're arresting their own people for free speech. They are daring the free man, the free woman. They are daring them to take back their own dignity. We're going to talk about a country that hopefully they're doing away with everything that has to do with LGBT. But we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to have an amazing guest on this day of recognized slavery. All this on Untamed. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. All right, so where do we start today? Well, let's ask the question. We got all these tariffs that we keep talking about. And And we just talked about how Mike Johnson was talking about taking more of our pay. And what does this actually mean? If they take more from us, what's left? I mean, everything is very expensive right now. We talk about $3 eggs, or I'm sorry, $8 eggs, $3 gasoline per gallon. But I have to ask you the question, if this is the way it is, why would they go backwards? If they could have tariffs and they could have income tax, why would they go backwards? Well, here's a good question that just got asked. President Trump just announced on tax day, there's a chance that the money from the tariffs could be so great that it would replace the income tax. But I want you to know one thing about the government. When it can take the tariffs and it can take your income, it will take both. What they should have done is said, get rid of income tax completely and let tariffs take over. They should have done that. Let's go see what President Trump had to say here.
¿Los aranceles van a reemplazar el income tax?
You know, you're the only one that's asked me that. Oh, I deal with all these big financial geniuses. Nobody ever. There is a chance that the money from tariffs could be so great that it would replace. You know, in the old days, about 1870 to 1913, the tariffs were the only form of money. And that's when our nation was relatively the richest. We were the richest.
But you have to, in order for that to happen, you got to get rid of the grift. You got to get rid of the grift at the state level. You got to get rid of the grift at the federal level. It's gotten so bloated that it treats the people as if they're insignificant, as if you don't matter. And look, that's the 300,000-pound gorilla in the room, right? That's the Dan Bongino cash question. Like, when are we going to get to a place where the FBI does what it says what it was going to do? Kash Patel said what he said, and that it's going to do this, and we're going to do this, and let's just go do it. And I want to point something out. By this time in Biden administration, they had already rounded up some 60 or 70 people that were at J6 to throw them in the gulag. Not one arrest so far of that, though. But it takes time, right? Everything takes time. Or maybe it doesn't take time. Maybe they're just signaling that they don't have any plans to do the things that they said that they would do. And it was all kabuki theater. But Stephen Moore, who I really like, had this to say. And this is a question that he put out there to get rid of and prioritize our tariffs. And, are we going to do these tariffs and start talking about tax cuts? Because if you want to put pressure on the tariffs to make that stick, you got to get rid of the foundation that is basically the net. And you got to say, okay, let's get rid of the net. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of income tax. Now we got to figure it out. So yeah, we're going to keep tariffs in place. We need to talk to the other countries. Say, hey, listen, I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to get rid of. We're gonna have to add this tariff in. If you want to do business with us, you got to pay it. That's just the way it is. But here's what he has to say on Fox. Let's go ahead and play it.
Columnist Stephen Moore joins us. Steve, we better get tax cuts by August, or this market and the economy are not going to be happy. We've said this many times before. As you look at the scene now, you think we are definitely going to get tax cuts by, say, the summer?
I sure hope so. And I've been saying, let's get this done by Memorial Day. I heard many of the leaders of the House and Senate saying that last week. This was another big hurdle to get over, Stuart. So every week we're inching a little closer to getting this done. I think because of the turmoil in the markets that we've seen over the last couple of months with all the tariff talk. One of my complaints with the Republicans, they're talking too much about tariffs and not about the good stuff, which is the tax cuts. We got to make it permanent. Yes, I think it should include no tax on tips. I like that idea, Stuart, also, that Trump talked about. If you make things in America, a 15% tax rate, as a bonus, if you're using American workers, all these things would be very positive. And I love seeing a little green on the screen today. Yeah, that's a great thing, Stuart.
It sure is. Listen to what it really is. Listen to what Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren had to say about Trump's tariffs. Watch.
Mm-hmm. Look, there is no tariff policy. It's just all chaos and corruption. That's all we have going on. The courts may step in here, but we don't have to wait for the courts to step in here. Look, every Democrat is ready to go. to push back and take away from the president the power he's now exercising and the chaos he's now creating. The question is whether or not the Republicans will join us in this.
What does she mean? Everybody's ready to go to take the power off the president. Is that bill that they propose to give authority back to Congress, which will ultimately fail?
Well, look, she has a little bit of a point, and I'm no Elizabeth Warren fan. And by the way, she's always been for tariffs until Trump came in. Then when Trump endorsed them, she was against them. But look, the Constitution is pretty clear. The taxing authority begins in the House of Representatives. Now, what happened was the House of Representatives gave Trump and any president emergency powers to use tariffs during terms of war and other kinds of emergency situations. I think the issue here is whether we are in an emergency right now. And do we, let me give you an example. Let's say Kamala Harris were still president and she wanted to impose all these tariffs because of, climate change or something like that. I do think at some point, if we're going to have because a tariff is a tax, they should be approved by Congress unless it's a true emergency. And I'm not so sure this is. But look, Trump is going to prevail here. He is the best negotiator I've ever seen in my life. It may take a month or two, but you're starting to see these calls come in. I think at the end of the day, I said this last week on your show, I'll say it again. I think Trump is going to end up with freer and fair trade. And I'm a free trade guy, Stuart. So I kind of like that outcome. And I think that's exactly where this is headed.
There'll be a nice ending to the tariff story. Got it. Steve, thanks for joining us. Always good.
All right. So tariffs. Oh my gosh. Is this a post? Is this just come up? Is this breaking?
Oh, sorry. I was just looking in the rundown.
Oh, we're going to have to go through that for sure. I just saw it. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, oh, it's in there.
Gag orders, huh? You mean like a gag order on the Coomer case or the Coomer emails out of the Dominion case with Patrick Byrne? Like those type of gag orders? Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, it's clown world.
Absolutely clown world. Okay. So tariffs. By the way, I was looking at something really quick related to gasoline as we were sitting here listening to that. So I just want to remind you, if you thought you are not, if you think you're not a slave, if you're not a slave, then tell me this. This is Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, little shout out to him. This is something he said. Let's put this up. So let me get this straight. I pay taxes on my wages, then pay sales tax to spend my own money, then paying income tax on money that was already taxed. And when I die, my kids pay the death tax on my money that was already taxed. And then people hate me for doing everything I can to reduce my taxes. I pay taxes on my wages, then I pay sales tax to spend my own money, then paying income tax on money that was already taxed. Then when I die, my kids pay the death tax. See, it used to be you'd be taxed 2% on one thing, 3% on one thing. You didn't pay property tax. You paid a fee because you got the land for free. So the property tax you got was because you got what's called an entitlement. Now, you can't, a vast majority of people in this country can't own anything after the age of 70. They want to retire. They've worked their entire life. They worked 50 years as a slave to the government. I mean, how angry should we be? There's a reason why they actually went after the one percenters and the Proud Boys and they went after them for a reason. And I believe we need a fraternity. We need a militia in our country. A community militia. A community that when these pieces of trash judges come into our community and try to take from us, we can just walk as 150, 200 people, walk in front of them and say, yeah, not today. You take nothing today. We don't have that right now. They just take everything they can off the bone. Everything. Before we have Christina Bobb come on, is she here yet? No? Okay. Man, I got so many questions for her. I want to go through this. This we're going to talk about some of the things related to election fraud. Now, I remember talking to Christina Bobb about Chad Wolf when she asked a simple question, why are you not, what happened with the ballots that were in the shredder truck that were held? The FBI got involved, handed over to GBI. FBI had to get involved in it. And then what happened to it? It was a state issue. We just handed it back to them. Nothing. Just disappeared. And every time we turn around, we're called conspiracy theorists. So I want to do this if I can. I want to take you and talk about this report out of Orange County, California. Do we have that model that I built back in 2020? We'll find that. Shocking report results indicate that 1/5 of the voters in the 2024 election in Orange County, California were non-citizens, invalid, or phantom voters. All right, now put the model up. This is the model that I built. And I got an argument with that piece of shit, Joe Vaughn. And he, Sidney Powell put this up on January 6, 2021, this model right here. And he's like, oh, did Sidney Powell get it from you? Because I know that he's just a grifting little fed. He works for the bad people. But I didn't have anything. I didn't know about the election or the internet connection, but I knew it had to be possible because it said it right in their manuals. And if you look at the pieces and parts in this, you see that the absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, call them absentee, mail-in ballots, are the keys to this. Because they need the ability to have a secondary source, a funnel, a turning on the spigot of ballots that they can then justify ballots coming in and saying, oh, those are absentee ballots, those are mail-in ballots, and they're fake. They're not real. And you saw as people showed up and they put ballots in the big buckets and they show up at 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. Did the same thing in North Carolina just now for a Supreme Court seat, 50.01%, 49.99%. And then the North Carolina Supreme Court decided that even though the ballots, 60,000 plus ballots, didn't have proper authentication, which normally in a system like this would have been thrown out, even though that's the case, they counted them because the Democrats win. And so you can see where they've created a system. But as you go through this process, adjudication 1, adjudication 2, getting the tabulation, you see the phantom ballots, the fake ballots, and the real ballots, they all go together. They just kind of meld together. So there's no way to be able to tell. You can't tell. How do you tell what's good and what's not good? But then you have to be able to attach it to a voter. So then now the system doesn't even have to go down and go back up anymore because now they have the ability to have separate databases that are in the system. Here's the voters. And so they could just correspond those voters to those ballots. And I could walk through every part of what happened in Maricopa County and tell you how they were able to get ballots to match. I could tell you. Because every one of the boxes in Maricopa County was open. Every single box in Maricopa, except for the ones that were to be used for the cursory audit, risk limited audit. Every one of the boxes except for those were open. And you had ballots that were stuffed from 30, 40 different precincts. And we all knew it was fraud. And yet the media said, nothing to see here, misinformation, disinformation, misinformation, disinformation. This model that you see up here is still real today. When I talked about phantom ballots back in 2020, I was the first one to say that these ballots don't exist. They're actually being reproduced using what's called the ADA, American Disabilities Act, where inside the system, you can manufacture a ballot out of thin air that is created that looks like it's been filled in by the human hand. Still exists today. And then tabulation transfer, we saw what happened in Wisconsin. We saw what happened at in Georgia when they were counting ballots and they said, we had a pipe burst, and it turned out it wasn't a pipe, it was a leaky toilet. But they created a lie on top of another lie on top of another lie, and nobody has held them accountable for any of that. Take this down. But now we have says the 2024 election in Orange County, California. Are we not being captured by the minority? And this is what is happening right now. We are literally being captured by this radical leftist small group of people. It is not, these are our phantom voters. And yet you have loud people that get out there and you have 1,000 people here, 2,000 people here. I'm going to remind every single one of you that there is 330 million people in this country. And they can get 10,000 people to show up to a rally. And then you start layering on information about cell phones, and it turned out that 80% of them had been to 60, 70, or 20 or 30 different events for Kamala Harris. So they're just the same people that recycle. They are no-show jobs that are paid to go and do what they need for the radical leftists. And if what I'm saying is incorrect, then why is it that nearly a fifth of the voters in the California election, by this report, are phantom, non-citizen, or invalid voters? And this was a study done in 2024. Now, the excuse that was used by the media is that President Trump won in 2024. I'll be the first to tell you, was 2024 too big to rig? I think we would have been in a war had they taken the election away from President Trump, and they realized it. But they knew that they had already captured the judiciary, and that they had judges that were in their pocket. They wouldn't make decisions based upon what was good for the country or what was constitutionally acceptable. They would make decisions based upon what was best for their ideological bend. We saw that in Colorado when the Supreme Court of Colorado said, yes, President Trump cannot be on the ballot, only to be overturned and spanked, not by just the liberal or the conservatives, but the liberals as well. 9-0. 9-0. And it took them no time at all to come back and say that's absurd. Because had they said that President Trump couldn't be on the ballot in Colorado, it also would have caused a war. I think the people at that place where they're almost to the point where they're starving for constitutional integrity in our nation. And they've given up on the idea that the judiciary, the judges are going to do the right thing, because they haven't. And so you have this institutional rot that extends through our government all the way up through the judiciary. And this is just another one of those things. So the analysts in the landmark study used multiple trusted skip tracing and identity verification databases to come to the conclusion a significant number of voters in Orange County in the 2024 election are likely non-citizens, invalid voters, or simply do not exist at all. 74,000 voters. Now, we had similar things that came out of Maricopa County. We had an entire report that Doug Logan did. And I remember talking to him on the phone, and I was like, why won't you be honest? He was the original one that sent me the report that said that there was massive fraud, you can't trust the system, and that this is bunk. He was the one. I was on the stage at the Clay Clark event, and I said, I have a report that was given to me that shows that there's massive fraud in the Maricopa deal. He said, Joe, I can't let that report go through because the lawyer for the Arizona legislature said he had final authority on what was published. He put out 3 volumes of reports. All the reports showed magnificent issues with information. And remember, we did not get access to the routers, which would have correlated to some of the information related to Runbeck and Dominion voting systems. So Christina Bobb is here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. When I come back, we're gonna get a chance to talk to Christina. She's probably one of my favorite people in every person that I met through 2020 for the last 5 years. She has a lasting impression. She's an investigative reporter. She worked for OAN. She's an attorney. She was defense counsel in the U.S. Marine Corps. And she's pretty amazing. And she's been through hell and back over the last 5 years, still involved in some litigation related to that. And she's also a former attorney for President Trump. So we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Christina Bobb. Right back.
Hi, I'm John Tig Tigan. I'm one of the Benghazi warriors from 9/11 2012 or 13 Hours movie. If you're a gun owner or plan on becoming a gun owner, this is where DCF comes in. As one of the lead instructors over here at DCF Guns, I'm going to ensure that you can properly handle your firearm and properly defend and protect your loved ones and yourself. For those of you guys that are thinking about purchasing a gun or getting involved in firearms, DCF Guns has an introductory class which will teach you the very basics of firearms, how to store firearms, even how to pick your own firearm if you have not yet. Our next step is the 100 series. We're going to go into the fundamentals of marksmanship, which is going to be how to hold your firearm, how to sight in your firearm. Then we're going to go into the next step, which is going to be your maintenance, disassembling, reassembling your firearm. And then we're going to go into how to strings of fire, rapid fire, how to get more accurate shots on your threat. Our next step is the 200 series with pistol. We're going to teach you how to draw from the holster and return to the holster in a safe manner. With the carbine, we're going to teach you how to use the sling properly. We're going to teach you how to do proper reloads, what different types of reloads there are. We're going to teach you cover and concealment, what's the purpose of each and which one does what, and then good in shooting and moving, and also transitioning from your rifle to your pistol and back from your pistol to your rifle. Your next step is going to be the level 300 series. This kind of combines all your training into one step. We keep going forward is what we do. We're going to go into low light. We're going to go into close quarter combat stuff, CQB, room to room clearing, situational training and stuff like that. Your training never ends, so get in here and let's get it done. Start your training at DCF Guns today and save on classes when you become a member. And when you become a member at DCF Guns, you can unlock some major benefits. Priority range reservations, discounts on firearms and ammo, discounts on gunsmithing, and we offer a lifetime cleaning. So visit dcfguns.com to learn more, or you can contact us directly with any questions you might have.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. All right. Hey, welcome back. I was talking to Christina over the break, and so I want to just go ahead and bring her in, just get her as much time as we can, because I want to talk through all the stuff that she's going through and what she sees that's happening right now. So, Christina, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I would have wore a tie, but I was sitting in the boardroom literally doing a bunch of stuff. So you didn't get to tie me, but you did get the Ferrari with the 47 on the side of it. So there you go.
No, you look great. I was running around talking to people and taking meetings, and I was on the phone. That's why I was a couple of minutes late. And I was like, oh God, I hope he's not in front of a TV screen or whatever. And no, you look great. I was like, okay, I hope I can kind of match his vibe maybe.
Yeah. So how have you been? You've kind of stepped out of the mix a little bit.
Good. Now that Donald Trump's back in office, things are better. I'm very happy with that. Yeah, I'll stick with good. There's still, as I mentioned to you on the break, there's still some battles I'm fighting, but
well, I didn't know that you had one battle in particular. You are indicted in Arizona for state crimes.
Yes, I have in the last, I want to say 3.5 years, 4 years since 2021, so 4 years probably. I have been involved, whether sued, subpoenaed, indicted, whatever, of 9 legal matters against me. It's been pretty brutal, especially because, at the start I was just a reporter. now I then worked for President Trump, and other things have happened since then. But I'm not a Trump. I'm not a big name person. I don't have millions or any of that stuff. I'm just a regular American. And to have 9 legal matters in 3.5 years was a lot. But thankfully, I'm down to 1. I was involved. Dominion had sued me. And I was really grateful that they dismissed me. I don't like saying nice things about the left, but I will give credit where credit is due. They took a closer look at my case and dismissed me, which I was very grateful for. So there's that. So that case is gone for me personally, and then the only thing left is my Arizona case.
So Dominion sued you. I think they'd have to dismiss it, because I did read all the case against you, and it didn't have. I mean, I don't even know where the weight of it would have come from at all.
Well, yeah, of course, my position was I had preferred to never be in the case in the first place, and I don't know what the rationale was for bringing me in. I don't know, but and of course, they also didn't tell me what they thought about why they dismissed me. I would assume that it was because I shouldn't say it. I would like to believe it was because they took a closer look and said, oh, maybe she didn't actually defame us. I don't know. I don't know that, but either way, I'm really grateful I'm not in the case anymore. So that's a huge relief.
It takes its toll on you. I've been in the Coomer deal for 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. What's been crazy is actually understanding now the apparatus of the judiciary and how it has very little to do with facts. It has everything.
That's a really good way to describe it, as an apparatus. And the fact that rulings can be so different depending on what part of the country you're in should be a huge, not just warning sign or red flag, but that should be a huge indicator that we're not healthy. Our nation is not healthy in a justice sense. The fact that justice is so very, very different depending on what part of the country you're in, I think is indicative of we have a real serious problem.
Well, can I talk a little bit about your book?
Yeah, we can talk about a lot of stuff. And I didn't mean to divert from the 9 felonies in Arizona either, but there's lots.
It's pretty depressing because you don't do anything wrong. You go about your business. You're just trying to do what's right by the country, and then you find yourself indicted, and you look at it and you go, what is this? This is a clown world.
Oh,
it doesn't make sense.
Better. No. I can't wait until I'm free, and I talk about it now just because I'm not going to incriminate myself because I didn't do anything wrong. But if you just looking at the indictment, if you pull up the indictment and say, why was Christina Bobb indicted? I was indicted because one of the electors, who happened to be the Arizona GOP chairwoman, who I knew because I was a reporter and I would interview her as the Arizona GOP chairwoman, retweeted one of my reports and was like, she quote tweeted, at the time it's called quote tweeting. She quote tweeted one of my reports that came out on Twitter, and according to the indictment, that clearly indicates that we're in a conspiracy together because she retweeted me. I'm not joking. That is the connection that they make to me and the electors in Arizona, was a tweet. And then I'm closely associated with Rudy Giuliani.
I am too.
Yeah, which is true.
I just saw him too. I just saw him last Saturday.
He's awesome. Rudy is amazing. And I'm proud to be closely associated with Rudy Giuliani. It's also not a crime. So, and that's really it. And then there were a couple text chains that I was not on where people were talking about me, saying maybe we could have Christina help with this. Which
you're a lawyer.
None of that was ever communicated to me.
Because you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
I would want a good lawyer to represent me and be a part of it. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, so if you're wondering why I was indicted, it was that was it. I'm now facing 9 felonies because apparently all of that leads to the conclusion that I committed forgery, according to the state of Arizona.
You do know that the GOP chair in Arizona tried to bribe Carrie Lake with upwards
the
of
follow
$20
one. That was
the next one.
John.
The one after.
Yeah, the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
not
don't
Kelly
have
Ward. Kelly Ward.
I don't have a very high regard for the GOP any more than I do the
No, I think that's the
Democrats.
healthy skepticism. And I'm from Arizona. I was raised in Arizona. I graduated from Arizona State. But I can honestly say I also don't hold the state of Arizona in high regard anymore. I didn't like and this has nothing to do with the GOP chairwoman, but I didn't particularly love working with the conservatives in Arizona. I just thought that they weren't bad. I just thought they weren't the fighter. Coming from Washington, D.C. or probably anywhere else, you're like, oh, people are aggressive and kind of fight hard. And I just felt like they weren't aggressive. And so I was like, oh, the conservatives in Arizona, they're just not that great. And then I got indicted by the Democrats and I realized the Democrats are also not that great. And I see their quality of work and I'm like, maybe it's the state of Arizona. Like maybe there's something.
Maybe it's politics.
But there's something about Arizona where you're just like, what's wrong with you?
Well, the cartels are pretty prevalent there too. I mean, it's
very.
And they're in every position. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they own real estate companies. It's a pretty entrenched environment.
It is interesting you say that. And going back to talking about my book that's behind me somewhere back there. I wrote that largely when I was reporting on the Arizona audit. That was where I got a lot of my information on the election. Was I spent months and months on the ground in all of these states, as a reporter, talking to elected officials and talking to volunteers and everybody that was in the area. I was talking to them. And when I was reporting from the Arizona audit, the overwhelming belief, and I don't know if this is true or not, I never was able to corroborate it, but the thing that people kept reporting to me as the reporter was that the reason the Arizona audit was secure, and if you remember, this came just months after the Summer of Love, where people were burning down the Portland courthouse and setting Seattle on fire, and Kenosha.
The Chad district.
Yeah. Like it was really
Chaz.
Chaz, that's right, Chaz. It was really brutally violent. And people were worried that the Arizona audit was going to become violent because it was the prime location for another one of those things to happen. And it never did. There was never an issue. And everybody that I was interviewing there, the primary hypothesis that they gave me for that was because it ran right in the middle of the cartel's drug trafficking ring. And the whole premise was, and they blamed Doug Ducey. I have no evidence or, no reason other than people telling me Doug Ducey was then the Republican governor, was that the Republican governor told the cartels, we'll keep the police away. We're not going to send a big police presence because the cartels don't want a big police presence, even though the audit probably required it. But if we refuse police cooperation with the audit, you have to promise us you're going to keep crime away from the audit. And there was no crime and there was no police.
I don't want to tell you how I know that what you're saying is partially true, but I know that what you're saying is partially true. And the interesting part
I heard it from a lot of people.
Yeah. So the interesting part about being in data and being who I am, I didn't get involved. I got into this because of Eric Coomer, right? So it's not like I got involved in this because I didn't choose it, but I'm a system architect. I understand tech better than that. That's how I built my model, right? I was like, okay, Eric Coomer, okay, let's just see if they can steal it. And then I was like, here's how they stole it. And then I predicted the Georgia outcome for that election, got interviewed and grilled by John Eastman, everyone. They came in and just pounded me for 14, 15 hours. But the reason why I know what you're saying is true is because when I started to correlate information in Arizona related to what I was seeing, I gotta be careful. So when you do data, you have the ability to layer on different parts of data. So data is really creepy. Okay. Everyone has their own footprint. You use what's called hashing. So you can hash data so that you can correlate it to devices, right? And so when you correlate things to devices, you can also correlate things to other psychographic, geographic, behavioral ideas. Do they go into Mexico? Do they not go into Mexico? Where are they, collecting themselves? Are the same people collecting themselves in different areas? So you can just map it. And once you map it, you're like, oh, those are bad people. Why are those bad people meeting with those supposedly good people? How is it that Doug Ducey is meeting with these guys? Why would he be meeting with those guys? I mean, those are definitely cartel members.
Interesting. Like, did you actually get it down to Doug Ducey? Are you allowed to say? Sorry, I'm sorry. I can't help but ask the question.
I don't. So the problem is that I cannot.
Okay, we'll keep it general.
Confirm or deny.
Okay.
That because I don't. The reality of it is
specifically about Doug Ducey a lot. We can leave it there, I guess.
Yeah. So, and look, I learned not to say things that I didn't know were true. Like I knew Eric Coomer was on that call because I checked it. And then I just did an entire, we had someone on X that came through and said, oh, I don't believe that you're on it. I was like, okay, come on the show. I'll walk through the events. And then at the end, you can tell me, was Eric on that call? So I did. And this guy was, I mean, we went back and forth. I wanted to punch him in the face. And he was going through all the stuff. And then all of a sudden, at the very end, I asked him the question. I go, so do you think I was on the call? He goes, absolutely. And I'm sorry that I even got in that fight with you. So I know for a fact things that I say have to be, I don't want to hurt anyone. Like I don't ever want to hurt anyone intentionally.
Sure.
I would never hurt anybody intentionally. But I would say that a vast majority of what's happening in Arizona is infiltrated. And I think some of the people, not Doug Ducey, because I think it took a whole lot more than $1,000, but you can buy people in Arizona for almost next to nothing. Like I can give somebody $1,000 and get them to say whatever I want and do whatever I want.
That is really weird. I've heard that. I spent a lot of time on the ground interviewing people trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And I've heard how cheap it is. And to be fair, I've heard it for other states as well. I don't think Arizona is the only state.
Yeah.
But it's really disappointing that that's all it would take. For $1,000, people will sell basically voting rights like that.
So $50 you can buy votes. It's called lunch in Chicago. And they basically just collect up tens of thousands of ballots.
Yeah. I've heard that.
What's unfortunate is it's like you're leading yourself to your own death. But at least you get to, eat a little bit more than everybody else for a limited amount of time. Everyone is fighting. That's the one thing I learned about being in DC. And I remember being in the hotel room with you and Rudy and other people, is that besides you guys, there was this thirst for power around us that was just, it's like it just felt, DC just felt dirty. Just didn't feel good. Is that a good way to put it?
DC's my home. I know what you're talking about.
I grew up there. I grew up in DC, born and raised.
I know what you're talking about, but I love the city. I really do. And I know what you're saying. I know the vibe that you're talking about, but I just love the city so much that I want to believe it's not always going to be that way.
Man, I want to believe in unicorns.
I want to believe it. So.
All right.
I don't know, but I do. But I see a shift. I see a shift with President Trump. And this is one of the reasons why I have hope that DC is not always going to be that way. He's
going to arrest thousands of people and fulfill the prophecy?
No, I wish. No, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the whole point of this is to decentralize power. The reason DC feels that way is because we have given so much power to the federal government and we have centralized power so much, and it's centralized here. It's here in DC. And it shouldn't be that way, and so I'm hopeful that President Trump will start something and that it will continue on. I'm hoping maybe with future presidents where we really decentralize the power in this nation.
Okay, so let's say we did that, Christina. I mean, let's look at what happens to Arizona where I could buy people for $1,000.
I know.
So you gotta be able to DOGE all 50 states, I think. Do something to read.
Yeah, yes. I don't have the solution for it. But you're right. All of that needs to be taking place at the same time. And I do think there's a way to do it. Shrinking the federal government, growing the states. But and this kind of goes back to your first question, or not your first question, your first statement about the courts. It can be real hard to do that when the courts are compromised, and when you have compromised courts in Arizona, or compromised courts in whatever state, we're seeing that play out with the president right now in his executive orders, that the things he's trying to accomplish are they're making it hard because they're taking everything to a judge who just disagrees with them politically. So yeah, we got work to do. Long story short, we got work to do.
So that leads me back to your book, because you talked about what happened in 2020. Do you still, I mean, I feel like the media is still whitewashing and using the same rhetoric, the
100%.
misinformation, disinformation. But I think 90%, and I made that up, it's not 90%, I don't know what it is, of the public has moved past it and has now just admitted the election in 2020 was stolen. So how do...
Right? Which is, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Yes, and it's so infuriating because I said back on November 3rd, 2020, reporting from the White House, I was like, hey, they shouldn't be stopping the count. Like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, this is a problem. Because I did that, they unleashed hellfire and fury, tried to destroy my life. I'm still currently, as we're having this conversation, still under 9 felony indictments in the state of Arizona because I said that. And yet the rest of the nation is looking at this going, oh yeah, that's right. They kind of accept it, and they're like, yeah, 2020 probably was stolen. Maybe it was. And it's like, okay, well, can you stop trying to destroy me just because I said it 4 years ago?
And Tina Peters is in jail right now, and the judge denied her defense. And I
know. And like Jake Lang spent 4 years in prison with no trial. He was never not only was he never convicted of anything, he was never tried for anything. I mean, it's just bonkers. It's just bonkers what they're doing. So,
how do you reconcile that, what's been done over the last 4 years, and just the ethos, the constitutionality of our nation? Like it almost has eroded it to a place where the people, the average people, become the intended victims or targets of this apparatus.
You're 100%. That is what's happening. And they're trying to replace us with illegals. So not only are we the intended victims, they're going to replace the victims with different victims who have been trafficked and, abused and are, indebted to cartels and all that stuff. It is happening. I think it comes down to the fact that I 100% blame Republicans. I said it in my first book. I'm working on another one. Hopefully I'll be able to put out, that it comes down to Republicans aren't pulling, it's tug of war, right? It's tug of war, and Republicans let go of their end of the rope. And so no wonder we're careening off a cliff, because the liberals are just like, we can do whatever we want. And there's no resistance whatsoever.
They're too busy tugging on each other.
I like what you said there.
It's like Republicans are over here trying to, that rope. No, let's tug on. Let's just beat on each other a little bit. It'd be really good.
They beat on each other, but they beat on each other in a way that's not going to cost them any election points. It's not going to cost them their seats. They do it in a safe way, and they think, okay, no one's going to primary me because I'm not actually doing anything. And so they're so concerned, conservatives have become so concerned with saving their image and saving their seat that nobody is actually checking the power of the left. And quite honestly, I kind of don't blame the left. I think they're all insane, but they got that way because we allowed it. And so they're like, oh my gosh, you mean I can do the next craziest thing? I can say men are women and no one's going to stop me? Okay, men are women, that's what it's come down to. And so I think conservatives...
We debate the ridiculous. Like we actually give it space. I'm like,
and
what are
we
you
say,
talking?
oh, we're tough on crime. Oh, we're the crime. We're the law and order party. Okay, are we? Or are we only the law and order party for violent crime? Because there's a lot of white collar crime happening with your buddies that nobody's doing anything about. So are we really the law and order party? I mean, that, in my opinion, that's what it comes down to. And no one thinks they're ever going to be held accountable because Republicans don't hold anybody accountable. So who cares? So,
well, I mean, there's a part of this that leads me back to policy. And because I've been on both sides, I've been on the grow up poor, do really well. Since I've been on both sides and I've been able to see it does bring me to a place where the left uses a little bit of truth in order to mule people into a place, because most of the people that they're actually controlling in their environments have had to deal with that type of pain. Like the school to prison pipeline is a real thing. The lack of opportunity in inner city is a real thing. It's just not the conservatives doing it. they're over here stabbing their own people and then saying, it was that white dude over there in suburbia. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going, what is going on? That guy clearly stabbed you. No, you stabbed me. I did not stab you. He stabbed you. Right? But they walk around, they create these environments and you go, well, United Airlines isn't in the inner city recruiting anybody to fly planes. Why? Well, because you're white. No, because they eroded your education to a place where it's a desert. There's no education. You suck. And you suck because Democrats have created an environment to let you suck more. Opportunity and chaos.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I could fix the whole country. I could fix right here.
No, I think you're right. And I think conservatives, not conservative people, not those of us that, live the country. It's the conservative politicians, the conservative elected officials. They're timid. They're just timid. And they don't know how to handle someone like Donald Trump, who is the furthest thing from being timid. And so they want to, Donald Trump is their worst nightmare. And I'm talking about conservatives. Donald Trump is conservatives' worst nightmare because he forces issues they don't want to deal with. And he shine like now, oh my God, now all these MAGA Republicans want me, Joe Schmo congressman to act like Donald Trump. Yeah, we do. And they're too scared.
I know you wanted to use a different word. I'm glad you used the word you used there. Because I say it all the time.
I'm trying to clean up my act, Joe. I've gotten in trouble a couple of times. I need to stop. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to keep it classy.
Yeah. I was going to take us to a lower level, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let you keep us up here. How was it working on cases with President Trump, like the Mar-a-Lago case where they said it was worth $18 million? Yeah. I actually went to some friends and I was like, hey guys, let's put our $18 million together, go buy Mar-a-Lago.
Right. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. It was worth $18 million. That's crazy. Well, President Trump's amazing. I loved working for him and with him. I didn't work on that case, but I worked with him on election related issues and he's just great. And then you look at those cases like the $18 million for Mar-a-Lago or Alvin Bragg, resurrecting a misdemeanor into a felony that never actually occurred. And then we don't have to tell you what felony it was, just trust us. I don't want to call it chicanery because that doesn't do it justice, but just the constant moving target of what justice is, right? No matter when Donald Trump is like, I'm innocent because of X, they're like, oh, but it's not X, it's Y. Oh, now it's not Y, it's Z. Now it's 2. Now it's 8. You know what I mean? Like, it's just constantly moving target that you can't really practice that way. It's not a great way to practice law because you don't know what the law is until the judge has decided you've lost. So, it makes it hard.
And you find yourself, I mean, in the part that I finally started looking at with those cases against President Trump is that but what you're basically saying is they're moving the goalposts, right? So the goalposts are here. Okay, I'm gonna argue it based on these standard facts and these standard laws.
Something completely different.
And then like the lollipop in the third aisle right next to the macaroni and cheese is the reason why we're now charging them. And you're like, wait, where's the mac and cheese? Where's that's not aisle 3, it's aisle 6. And they would throw this stuff at you and I remember taking Alvin Bragg's indictment and I ran it through a program, an AI program, because I wanted to see if it was written by AI. And it said 99.9% it was written by AI because I couldn't correlate.
No.
Yeah. True story. I did a whole show on it. I even did it. I was like, blah, blah, blah. It was written by AI. It was not written by the whole thing. Yeah. And you could tell by the way that it was actually written that it wasn't written for it brought in case law because AI used to not be that good. It just wasn't. I mean, even a year and a half ago, it wasn't that great. And so we brought in this information related to it. And I was like, well, I looked up the case law and I was like, well, how does that have to, I'm not kidding. It was like the lollipop and the macaroni and cheese. And people debated, like, how did they come up with this case law in order to justify this crime? Kind of like moving it from a misdemeanor to a felony. Well, they did it, and they never did the hard work by going back and looking at it. So I remember sending some stuff over.
And then the judge never made them do that.
He walked past it. He actually walked past it.
Yeah, and President Trump's attorneys argued, like, in order for this to be a felony, it has to be in furtherance of another crime. And they never identified what that other crime was. What was it?
But they never even said in there the justification for the furtherance of the crime. They just said it was in furtherance of a crime.
Yeah, the case is going to get overturned and thrown out. But
But Christina, that's the problem, is that most people don't have they don't have the ability. They don't have the financial ability to fight back. And so this
Donald
system,
Trump's the only one. No, we have to make massive corrections not to our laws. Our laws are actually okay. We need to make massive corrections to the way we enforce those laws and to the way our government responds to those laws, specifically the government, during President Trump's term. We have to do it in the next, 4 years, less than 4 years now, because if we don't, we'll never get another chance, because they will unleash hellfire and fury, on whoever the next candidate is, and that candidate won't survive. The only way any candidate will survive after this is to kiss the ring and play the part. Donald Trump is the last candidate who can flip off the establishment and say, screw you, I'm going to do whatever I want. He paid a big price for it. So we have to correct that and ensure that type of, I don't want to call it politicking, because it's not politicking. It's just crime. It's just corruption. That type of corruption doesn't survive in our system past Donald Trump's presidency. And I think if it does, I think we're in trouble.
before the 2024 election, I had to reach out to several countries because I was going to leave the country. I had to have a contingency for my family. I was selling everything and I was leaving because I knew I was high on their list of guys that they wanted to knock off. And so, so it rings heavy. Like what you're saying to me rings heavy. And I keep saying, if we don't, I wrote this bluff because I was asked to by a previous Deputy Secretary of State, which I think you know who I'm talking about. He said, hey, write a bluff. Bottom line up front analysis of the elections and what needs to be done. So I did. I wrote a 700-page white paper.
Wow.
That was my Picasso. Took me 4 months to do it. In January, I said, okay, I'm going to send the bluff, then I will send the analysis. So I ended up publishing the analysis, sending it to people so they could go through it and make sure it was real. It's still in that analysis right now. But I sent this 7-page deal that had to get to President Trump. And I'm like, this is what has to be done. And you only have 90 days. So I did the math and I was like, look, and right now we have 5 days left. We have 5 days for him to do some pretty drastic things in order to declare a state of emergency based on transparency and security. Now, the ODNI came out and said, Tulsi Gabbard came out and said, we have reason to believe that these machines have been hacked. She sniffed the edges. She said a lot without not really saying a lot. She left open interpretation to a lot of things that she said, which I think is smart.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see what she's going to reveal. And correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen anything really come out. Okay. I saw that she said, like, hey, this is a concern we have. We're looking into it. But I haven't seen anything more than that.
Christina, they knew ODNI knew in 2020. Like they had analysts at NSA. You know this. I know this. I mean, I was in the room with those guys.
Right, but Tulsi Gabbard wasn't the ODNI.
Yeah,
She wasn't the DNI at that point. So I give her a little bit of room of like, okay, she's still she's getting her.
She was not the DNI. Right? Yeah. Okay. But she also knows what it looks like to be railroaded and put on the Quad S list and basically prevented from flying, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote this 7-page deal and it outlined.
Actually, I'm sorry. On that, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Did you have your TSA pre-check canceled?
Oh, yes, I did.
They canceled my pre-check.
Well, so I need to tell you why mine was canceled, though.
Oh, okay. You gave them a good reason?
I did. I
didn't give them a reason.
I had a backpack and my weapon was in the I had my gun in the backpack and I'd grabbed the wrong backpack. I have a go bag and then I have Look, I live in a house with bulletproof glass, thermal cameras. I have an AR-15 next to the bed
Yeah.
still.
That's
People
kinda
come to
funny,
my house to try and
actually.
kill my
Not
family.
what I
It's
thought you were
crazy.
gonna say.
What's that?
But
They perp
okay, I
walk me
said
through
that's
the
not
airport.
what I thought you were gonna say. But
No,
did they really?
Yes, they did. It was fun.
Oh,
So fun.
wow.
And I still
Okay, I
made
didn't
my
have
flight.
that happen. They just told me fine.
Yeah. I still made my flight, which
Nice.
is
Good job.
yeah. So I mean, they put me in this little holding cell, and I looked at the guy, and I was like, my gun's in the bag in it, because like cops came out of nowhere, and I was
Yeah,
like,
of
oh, yeah.
course.
I said, can I have a redo? He's like,
Oopsie.
nope. What made it worse is it was loaded, so all the parts of it that
Did
you
they
could possibly do.
confiscate it? Did they take it or
Yeah, they
or
melted it
did
down.
you leave? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, they melted it. They took it away, but I went to court because TSA has their own court deal that you go through.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay.
it was crazy. The judge is like, so did you leave your gun in the bag? And I said, yeah, I did. I do own gun stores and ranges, and I sell a lot. As a matter of fact, I do a lot with law enforcement. We have a bunch of your contracts. And she goes, that was pretty irresponsible. And I was like, yeah, probably. I just wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was a mistake. You messed up.
and,
Oh well.
and she's like, well, we're gonna fine you. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, $500. And I went to start laughing, and my attorney's like, Joe, just stop laughing. And I was like, yeah, I'll
Do
pay your
not
$500.
laugh. Just get
Yeah.
out of this courtroom as quickly as possible. Yeah.
and I go, can I have my gun back? She's like, we're gonna melt it down. I was like, okay. And I'm in Denver of all places, so the judges,
Well, that's why, of
yeah,
course.
they hate people, so it was great. But yeah, I lost my
Yeah.
TSA. I just never went back to go get it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Take my shoes off.
Well, I'm hoping if and when my criminal case ends, I can get my pre-check back. But we'll see.
That's why they took it away. It's because of that.
That's the only reason I can think of. I have no idea why I just got a notice that was like, you no longer have TSA pre-check. You are subject to periodic reviews, and we've determined that you do not meet the criteria anymore.
Oh my gosh, it sounds awful.
Yeah, I have no idea why. The only thing I can guess is my Arizona case, but I've never been convicted. You know, I was indicted, but
You're guilty till proven innocent, I guess.
yeah.
In a case that's like a kangaroo case.
It's just petty. You know, like every inch of power they can take, they're gonna. And that's what they did.
I fight back. I personally fight. I mean, I had the $1,000 fine a day to give up my source. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not. Keep going.
That's rough.
In a case that I'm not even a part of.
Yeah.
So it's a separate case. I'm not even a part of it. And they said, you have to give up your source. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I have protections, and so does that young man. So no. They're like, you're in contempt of court. Okay. Well, it's indirect because I'm not there. And this is the other thing I learned over the last 5 years. I should go to law school. You're like, please.
You should. They never give you a license, but yeah.
Can they stop me from getting a license? Can they actually do that? Or is it?
Well, I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but this is something I think is a legitimate concern, is they're trying to take away licenses. I've had to fight for my license. Thankfully, I was able to keep it. But the bar exam, they're not just with law, but with medicine and psychology and like all of these professions that require a professional license, the testing requirements are becoming more and more woke, and it's serving as a way to weed out people who don't comply. So
well,
is it to the point where you couldn't get a license? No, probably not. But it's
pretty close.
They would never want to give you a license.
I could probably go to law school, and then they would never apply the law to really how they're practicing law anyway. So I could just kangaroo it through the.
No, you could go to law school and get like you absolutely could get a license. I assume Colorado would give you a license, but I don't know. But
I assume that I would want to go to school in Colorado because this place is a total crap hole.
It's true too. Fair assessment.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? You were.
I'm at Judicial Watch.
Are you really?
I am. I just started a couple months ago, February. I started 2 months ago at Judicial Watch.
Okay, so what are you doing at Judicial Watch?
Suing the government. I've sued the Department of Justice a couple times. I've sued DHS, the CIA. Trying to get information. I've got a couple open cases.
How did I not know this? This is awesome.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I wasn't thinking about it, but yeah. So trying to, it's not my case, but we just filed a case for the Epstein files.
Which they said they were already releasing.
They said they were already releasing, and then they said they don't have any records. And it's like, Pam Bondi's on television talking about how they're on her desk. Like, just give us what's on her desk. Like, go get the files and give them to us.
Why does it take 16 years?
Because they're hiding them. So
who do you think's on that list?
I think there's a lot of politicians on that list. Or either politicians on the list or people who are connected to politicians or donor, like, the donor class or political operatives. They might not be elected officials, but they work in politics, that kind of stuff. I think it's probably also quite incestual. A lot of the, same people, repeat customers. I don't know. Between Epstein and Diddy, I think all of the elites in our country
I think they probably got all of them. I mean, there's only 7,500 elected officials, and we're going to find out it's like 3,400 that are on it.
Something like that. I think, I don't know that it's 50%, but I think it's probably high.
The fact that you're actually considering it could be close, because I saw you doing the math.
I don't think it's 50. For the record, I do not think it's 50%. But there's a few, I'm sure. I don't know.
So are you back in Washington? Or are you still down in Florida?
Yeah, no, I'm in DC. I live and work in DC, fighting every day to try to.
That's why you
get
like
record
it down there.
Yeah,
because the food is really good there. I will tell you.
We have amazing food. I love it. Yeah, we've got great restaurants.
All right, so you're suing for the Epstein files? You're suing for Judicial Watch just had another lawsuit that just dropped, pretty big one. What was it?
There've been a few.
It was related to the Chevron deal in states where the federal government not complying.
I do. Yeah, that also is not my case. But let me check my notes here for a second. So, we sued the state of Arizona because the Arizona Attorney General, right before the election, said that she was opening an investigation into Donald Trump for the comments he made about Liz Cheney. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And he said something to the effect of, if we put Liz Cheney at the front lines of Ukraine, let's see how long she supports the war, something like that. He said something to that effect. And the Arizona Attorney General supposedly opened an investigation into whether he was guilty because he made that comment in Arizona. And turns out nobody thought that was a crime and nothing really came of it. So trying to get records out of that was kind of funny because it's like, oh, really? What kind of investigation did you do? And it's like, nothing. They can't come out and say it, but the reality of the situation was she was just posturing to try to impact the election. It was election interference is what it was. And she was trying to influence the state of Arizona against Donald Trump using her position, her political position to do that. And nothing ever came of it. I've sued the CIA for their Michael Sussman records. You remember Michael Sussman had comps with the CIA and was Hillary Clinton's guy or had connections there.
Can you sue the CIA and see if it's true that Eric Coomer was actually can we find out if he was working with the CIA in 2000?
Is he an asset?
Is he an asset? That's one of the big questions I want to ask right away. But I think there's definitely a
Eric
connection.
Coomer's a CIA asset.
Well,
you know what's funny? You said that talking about being an asset. Tim Waltz. Sorry. Mike Waltz, that's bad. Tim Waltz in his CCP connections, and apparently there were a few articles that came out. Yeah, so we're suing DHS for that because there was some information that Homeland Security had those files or had records of him being with the CCP. I'm interested I've also sued DOJ for their communications with the CIA regarding Kevin Morris, who was Hunter Biden's attorney, potentially CIA handler. I don't know. We're trying to figure that out. So I don't know.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me how many people are involved in that world. It's a deep well. When you get down it, you're almost like, whoa. And then everything is just shrouded in secrecy. You have the case with
no one can find anything, right? Which is why Judicial Watch is so great because, and I
love Judicial Watch.
Patting myself on the back because I just started here, but the organization is amazing because they uncover this stuff. They get the information.
Are they still doing cases where they're taking care of people that are unjustly?
Yes, I'm a client, actually. I work
Are you
here and
really?
I'm also a client. They have sued on my behalf to obtain my FBI records because the FBI investigated me and TSA, actually. They sued the Department of Homeland Security and TSA to get my TSA record. Like, why the heck did they cancel my TSA pre-check? There was no reason for it. So, yeah, no.
So you're not going to have to take off your
Anybody wants to
shoes.
sue the government? Like, yeah. No, judicial watch is game. If it looks like there's government corruption involved, we'll play.
Well, I mean, the problem is there's so much of it. It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah, I know. We definitely are not short on cases. That's for sure.
Okay, so here's a question. Here's a lawyer question. Ready?
Okay.
Why are politicians allowed to lie to their constituents? I mean, why? I mean, on both sides. It should be neither side. You should be able to say that.
Is this a joke or are you honestly asking?
I'm being. I mean, why?
Okay.
You're fooling people.
It sounded like a joke. I was going to say I don't know why. You know the way you would answer with the joke, but I thought there was a punchline.
No, it's a real thing. I hear some like Pocahontas get on stage and say stuff, and I go, "This is not real." Like the second that you found out you were 0.00000, man, I tell you what, I am more of an alligator than I am a human being if she is Native American.
Yeah.
How are they allowed?
No, it is bad. I mean, well, because the courts would say everybody has a First Amendment right to lie, which is true. Lying is not a crime. You have a right to do it. And in theory, politicians can lie and they get exposed for their lies, and then the voters vote them out of office. That's the reason.
But then you have the media that stands up to liars.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
work. It becomes institutional.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah. Yeah.
And they get away with it. They build narratives
Nobody knows
that
what
they
the
know.
truth is.
Well, which is purposeful. I mean, if you're creating chaos, then there's opportunity in that chaos, right? Chaos favors the op, never favors the people. And
yep.
But I still look at the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, where they basically said that the American people can be lied to by the government. The government is allowed to lie to the people. And this is kind of when they switched everything and made it so VOA could operate freely in the United States. And that's really when we saw the talking points of the Mockingbird media. Now, it existed before, but it wasn't state-sponsored. And now we have state-sponsored, media infiltration. President Trump's talking about it, but there still is no legislative action that would stop them from being able to fool and create this division that's happening in our community. I would argue that it's the most dangerous thing that we have right now going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have become the prey.
All right. So how do we stop that?
We're doing it. You're doing it. Your podcast, my lawsuit, just trying exposure. We can't change it without the exposure. And a lot has been exposed.
I would agree with that.
We're not done. There's a lot more that needs to, and we have to try to help the other half. And I don't even think it's half the country, the other third of the country that is just adamantly unwilling to believe, that things are as bad as they are. We have to try to help them see what's actually going on.
How big a problem do you think the left is? Do you think it's a bot problem and a propagated make it look bigger than it really is? Because 27% of all accounts on social media are bot accounts.
Yeah, well, I think that contributes to it. It contributes to the perception that more people believe this, so it must be valid, But I think it's all of it. I think it's education. I think it's an entitlement thing. I think it's victimization. It's all encompassing.
I would agree with you fully.
And it takes all of us because there's so many different facets of it that it takes all of us to expose it. So.
Well, I know you got a ton of stuff to do, but I have another question. I have a last question for you that has nothing to do with, but how, because I know that I have to go through this. I crack jokes all the time. How do you keep your sense of humor knowing what you've gone through over the last 4 years? I've seen what you've gone through. I get more angry about what people did to you than they did to me. How do you keep it? How do you keep that?
You're very nice for saying that. Well, I don't always keep my sense of humor. There are definitely angry days. Not as many now, thank God. It's gotten a little bit better. I just have the one case left. One case. But it's because and this sounds so like corny, but it really is true. It's like, I just really believe in this nation. And if we don't save this nation, then like, what's the point of anything? You know, if I don't get to keep my freedom, what I get to go become a bot for somebody, and I get to parrot what somebody else wants me to say, or, you know, it's everything. It's everything. So
Yeah, the
I don't
one thing
know.
I can say about this country is that the reason why I keep my sense of humor is because I know where I came from. And so having the opportunity to come from where I came to where I am now, and the opportunity that
Yeah.
I've had to do the things that I've done, it's been a storybook for me. Even the bad stuff has been a storybook.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, the bad stuff makes the good stuff sweeter, you
yeah,
know?
I would agree with
So I'm hoping this next year for me is a real sweet year. 'Cause, you know, with how bad things have been, I'm due for a good year, but we'll see.
that.
So
You would think that your job at Judicial Watch would become easier now that you have people that should agree with you that are in positions of power and trust. But I don't think that's
yeah,
going to be the case or as easy.
yeah, it's not as easy as we thought it was gonna be. But because you know, I know the president. I can talk to the president. I can talk to his closest advisors. I can talk to them. They're not the ones that open the file and hand me the records, you know?
Right.
And there is a disconnect. So I don't know, we'll keep chipping away. We'll get there.
We will. I have faith in the nation. I have more faith in the good people in our government, but I do hate the judiciary with every bit of my soul because I think the judges have done a lot of harm. They've just done a lot of
Yeah,
harm.
we definitely need a hit refresh on our judiciary for sure.
Can we
A
just fire them
reset. What
all
is
and
it?
start
Reset to
over?
factory standards.
Yeah. But we have to erase all the memory.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to all go away.
Yeah,
All right.
something like that. I don't know how that works. You can figure that one out, Joe, but like hit reset on that. So
If I could do it, I would. You have a new book.
I have no doubt you're working on it.
You have a new book.
Hopefully. Not yet. I am finished. I'm having my attorneys finalize the legal review. So I'm hoping to have an announcement on it soon, but it entails my lawfare and, you know, the kind of the behind the scenes of the nastiness about DOJ and what we're up against, really.
It's bigger than I think most people understand, but it's also
It really is. I hope that I hope I'm able to get the book out. I'm still under indictment at the moment, so not everyone's thrilled with me wanting to put it out. But I hope it enlightens a lot of people because people don't realize how big and how ugly the machine is that we're up against. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, how do people follow you?
You can find me on Instagram, X at Christina_Bobb. And that's kind of it.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on. It's really good to see
Thank
you.
you so much. I appreciate it. And if and when I can get my book out, I'll send you some info.
You better.
I will.
And when I'm back in DC, I'll look you up.
Yeah, please do.
All right,
So,
take care.
All right, thank you.
All right, God bless you. I think she's one of my favorite people. Actually, I know she is because what you saw is what you get. And she is, I didn't know she was at Judicial Watch, but you can go donate some money, put in the comment section if you go to Judicial Watch and become a donor and just put in there Christina Bobb, great pick, and just drop a few dollars in there if you can. You know, we talked a little bit flippantly about what's happening in the judiciary, what's happening in government, but it is a serious problem. But she said something that's really interesting that I think we all need to consider, and that is the same sort of tug of war that's happening on the side that is not connected to that resistance you're giving Democrats is what is causing the problem. And so they've infiltrated a lot of what happens at the GOP, and that is a weakness. That is when we start talking about the cowardly or the weak, the Democrats, we have elected weak people. Now we have open primaries, which allows for that manipulation to happen. We manipulate how the system works so that even the GOP, even the rhinos, who frankly just want to status quo, maintain the status quo, can manipulate the system to make sure that we get weak leadership in Congress. And once they find their guy, that person stays there for a long time, unable or unwilling to speak up. You've never seen a politician come out and just hammer, hammer, hammer. Last time you had that, it was Rand Paul. But since then, what do we really have? What do we have? I would say that we have a bunch of kabuki theater and we have a bunch of empty promises that for the last 30, 40 years, we have never completed. Every single cycle, they say the same thing. We're going to get in there and root out corruption. And then they get in there, they never talk about corruption until it's time to get voted back in again. This is the problem that I have with the system. And then to find out she's still under indictment in Arizona, and she's like, yeah, I'm still going to I want to put my book out. That's the type of courage that we need inside of the government structure. And then to realize that, yes, Christina Bobb can pick up the phone and call President Trump. But she can call President Trump all she wants. And as she said, that's not the person that has to hand it over to us. So our expectations as people in the public has to change. If we want to change the judiciary, if we want to change all the rotted apparatuses that we have inside of our government, we have to force that change, which is going to take real commitment from the people in our community, both Democrat and Republican. I could stand on the street next to a Democrat every day, twice on Sunday, if the idea was just transparent operations. I don't know of a Democrat out there that wants to pay more in taxes. I don't know of a Democrat out there that wants to stand in front of a red light camera or have cameras on every light pole. And you say, well, you got to have security. Well, I don't even know many Democrats that don't want people that commit a crime to get locked up. They pick and choose what it is we have to agree and disagree on. But fundamentally, if you go out in your community and just sit there and start talking to people over a beer, or in my case, a soda, the question remains the same. How is it that we can create life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? And I think that's the one thing we should run towards. So let's see what we got on comments. Do we have any comments that I can go through? Apollo, anything, any questions or anything? Let's see here. If you could read my mind, Gammy, I'm not trying to read your mind, Gammy. I don't want to be in your mind. Please no. Hammer Guy, what did he say? What a great young lady she is. Awesome interview. Yeah, Hammer Guy, she is amazing. I wasn't kidding. She really is kind of a step above the rest. Ultra Pat says, James 1:12, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for whom he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Well, I certainly do love him. Gatorbait says, LOL. See, let's go over here to Carolyn for Congress. More complainers or brave people who are willing to walk outside the lines of propaganda narrative. Christina is brave. Joe is fed up and knows what's truly going on. Get out of your self-induced gas chamber and hear facts. How many times has Coomer been in Venezuela from John? I don't know. Intense focus, serious, cool. I don't know what Dave's saying. DNC plays both sides to a T. I agree with you, Dave Wilson. Good guy. Thanks, brother. I gotta follow him then. Right now, as we speak, they're rigging the judicial race in Pennsylvania primary April 10th. I agree with that. Carolyn, we've got to figure out, maybe we get Scott Pressler over there. Carolyn, what do you think? Can we get, don't get mad at me for saying that. I was just, Scott Presslering it. Maybe we could get Turning Point USA. Actually, we should probably reach out to Leah Hoops and see what we can get her on so we can talk about that primary race. And what we can do about it. Apollo, what else do we got stuff to talk about today? The FBI imposes a gag order about Hunter Biden laptops that employee accidentally confirms his authenticity to Twitter. Would it be to Twitter or was it be to, is this older? Is this older? Let me see here. April. So this is this year they did this? The gag order? Elvis Chan. How does that little prick still have a job? You know what I mean? How does that guy have a job? And it's a serious question. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, they get into office and they get amnesia already? Or is it, like, what is happening here? Like, what are we doing? So okay, so let's just go through this. Breaking: FBI imposes gag order about Hunter Biden laptop after employee accidentally confirms its authenticity to Twitter. New release: internal FBI chat message reveals senior bureau officials actively shutting down discussion of the laptop's credibility days before the 2020 presidential election. I saw some about this way back when. This is Catherine Hedridge reports a public Schellenberger joint investigation. Haven't heard much of Schellenberger here of late. An FBI official admitted to House investigators that an FBI employee has inadvertently confirmed the authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop to Twitter on a conference call the morning of October 14th, 2020, the day the New York Post published a story about it. I recall when the question came up, an intelligence analyst assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division said something to the effect of, yes, the laptop is real. And then Russia unit chief testified in a closed-door transcribed interview. I believe it was an Office of General Counsel attorney assigned to the Foreign Influence Task Force stepped in and said, well, we will not comment further on this topic. For the first time, and with the change of administration, the FBI has now turned over GOP House investigators the internal chat messages that show Bureau leadership actively silencing its employees. Who's going to go to jail for this, Apollo? Who do you think should go to jail? Think they should go to jail for it? The FBI, because if the Russia collusion is bunk, but there was collusion. See, this is that whole projection that we have to deal with on a regular basis. So it goes through and says the FBI's special task force to counter foreign election interference could have set the record straight by confirming the laptop was real and the subject of the ongoing criminal probe. Instead, FBI leadership allowed the false narrative about the laptop to gain momentum. The FBI provided the chat messages to congressional investigators with heavy redactions. Some of the redactions in the chat are marked OGC, AGC, which appears to mean that they were made for the FBI's Office of the General Counsel and Associate General Counsel. An individual whose name is blacked out tells Alvis Chan, the San Francisco-based FBI special agent tasked with interacting with social media companies, there was a gag order on discussion of Hunter Biden's laptop in a separate exchange. Chan has told official response, no comment. In the chat, the FBI official showed awareness of the laptop may have contained evidence of criminal activity. Asked Chan, actually, what kind of case is the laptop thing? Corruption, campaign financing. Another FBI employee responds, close, hold. After which the response is redacted. To which Chan responds, oh crap, appearing to underscore the serious nature of the probe, which included felony tax charges. Chan adds, okay, it ends here. In the same conversation, Chan is asked if anyone discussing the New York Post article on the Bidens. Chan responds, yes, we are. CD confirmed an active investigation. No further comments. CD is likely shorthand for the FBI's criminal division. Said another FBI employee whose name was redacted by the Bureau, please do not discuss Biden matter. We asked for a response from the Bureau and the FBI employees identified in the chat messages. An FBI spokesperson declined to comment. We go in depth on the chat messages for subscribers. Wow. Pretty interesting, huh? How is this? How is it even possible that we're having to deal with this still to this day? You mean the DMs? Yeah, just release the DMs? I would love it if he would start releasing the DMs. That would be epic. So let's talk about where we're headed as a country. And we'll end on that. And we've typically followed what the EU has done. So they came out and said, hey, we've got these crazy laws to stop people from getting access to information. You know, the only people that should have access to information is the big technocracies that we have government contracts with, that we can then put pressure on and take away the ability for people to be heard. When we're talking about the Coomer deal, directly related to this in 2020, Google wiped the internet of everything Eric Coomer. Wiped it. Gone. That wasn't the only thing that did it, and the only people that did it. It was done everywhere. Entire pages, indexes were taken down. You could argue that Google, and we may argue this actually, interfered with the election in 2020 and committed crimes that they covered up in an actual racketeering case with Eric Coomer and Dominion Voting Systems and the private equity firms that were responsible with it and the attorney firms they're responsible collectively in doing the harm that they did to the American people over those 4 years. I mean, it does ring true that it could be a RICO crime. So we'll see. I've got some information that I just got, and we'll keep going. But anyway, you take all that, put all that together, and then go down the road of what's happening in the UK. Well, if you're a Muslim, you get to pray in public. If you're a Christian, you are not allowed. Why? Why are Christians prohibited from talking about Jesus or God, but Muslims, they can have their way? It's a big problem. In the UK, a deaf individual was told that them saying speak English is a hate crime, even though that's not what he said. But he's deaf. And so the police came over because they called the police and said, you have to arrest him. By the way, the person that said that they called the police, it was a third generation man that had his entire family has been from the UK going back. I'm sorry, not third generation, 13th generation. But this is the interaction. Go ahead and check this out.
If you do, that would be really handy for us. But apparently, during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged. We weren't here, so I don't know who said it. But you've alleged to say, "Speak English," or what's that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he can't speak clearly. Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Didn't we just know this was going to happen?
No, people, you know, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to me.
The cuckoos out of the cuckoo nest. Let's go ahead and look at this. A man in Leeds. There's a pro-Palestinian protest. And in Leeds, this man was arrested for saying this. Let's go and play it.
Come on, England! Come on, England! Your man! What's going on? What's going on? They're coming to me. Please, no! What did you do? Lock me up for no, man. There's nothing wrong, man. They were saying England. No, they're walking down the street saying England, and they got arrested. No, man. Locked up for no, boys. Slam it. Really slam it. Really slam it. Go on, slam it. Yeah. Oh, that was terrible. That wasn't loud enough. That was terrible.
You can't make this up. You can't even, I mean, it's not even possible. Let's go, England. That's a hate crime. But we're in England. Nope. We're in the United Kingdom of Pakistan. I don't know. I made that up. It used to be that the English were fierce fighters. Conor McGregor, what you don't know is that there's a storm brewing right now. And the people in the UK, they don't care. They don't care. They're past the point. They know that they are slaves. And they're giving people a choice. You don't remember the days, and I if I hadn't read books about this, about what happened in Ireland, and what happened with the car bombs by the way, don't ever go to Ireland and ask for an Irish car bomb. Don't. They will whoop. You're likely to get in a fight. Don't ask for a black and tan, because you're likely to get in a fight. It is pretty evident. You just can't. Just don't do it. because thousands of their countrymen died. And what's happened now is that they died defending. And when they stopped defending because they had this peace agreement, all of a sudden mass immigration came in. And I'm not against immigration. But you can't destroy the ethos of nations and enslave people and expect them to just take it. They won't. And that's frankly where we're at right now. But while these arrests are taking place in the UK for free speech, Apollo, your countrymen, the Greeks, they're done. They have watched globalization, and they have watched mass immigration and the loss of rights destroy their country. It's destroyed. Apollo, you were just there last year.
Yeah, it's bad. The industry's gone. They have all kinds of green initiatives, just like they do in this country. So it's a bunch of like gender DEI crap. And I mean, the ports have been sold out to China for a long time. And they just celebrated Independence Day, but the economy there has really, really been crushed. It's a sad situation actually to watch. And I mean, the birth rates have plummeted. You have a lot of education that people go there for free education, and none of those students are staying there because they're going to go outside the country and work as a doctor or whatever, which is the stereotype, because they're going to get paid. So people are leaving the country in droves. And you have this like looming issue with Turkey, who has all kinds of drones and all kinds of big issues. All of their factories, all of their production has been outsourced, and it's a difficult thing to see. There's like such this rich culture there, but then the people are having it really hard. You know, we talked to a lot of restaurant owners, a lot of people who've lived there, and of course I have family there, and it's a sad situation, especially compared to just 10 years ago.
It's gotten to the point where it's almost uninhabitable. And when Apollo came back, he was depressed. It was a state of depression. I mean, the food was still great.
Food was amazing. Food's amazing. My digestion has never felt better.
And it's real food, no GMO stuff, right? So, but let's put this video up. This is a video of what's happening there, and they're trying to crack down. And this particular one says that, you know, that Europe is rising, and they're rising against these globalists. Globalists, count your days. I'm going to tell you right now, they're coming for them. They're coming for them. Let's go. Let's play it. It is changing. And the protests are not without their agitators. And so this is what happened. They launched petrol bombs and fireworks at police. Let's go ahead and play it.
And this is kind of typical. There's actually like huge Antifa activity in some areas of Greece. So a lot of that stuff that you see, I would not at all be surprised is. Though Greeks do have a history of getting a little rowdy when they protest. But there's signs all over Athens.
So here's the thing about people of Greece, and I just heard about this last week. Apollo, you could probably tell me you have family that are there. Is that they are organizing, they're separating themselves. They will not burn down their own communities. They will burn down people that are protecting people that are burning down their country. So they have put the police on notice in Greece. If you stand up for these criminals, we are going to come through you. Apollo, you have family there. You've probably heard the same thing.
I haven't heard anything that I've been able to confirm. A lot of my family there is older. They've heard some of it concerns them because, you know, it's hard for them to move. But there's definitely tension there right now. And, you know, you have to remember, too, there's a lot of animosity among the Greeks who are very proud of their culture and of their communities. And they went through before, we've seen it now roll out in a lot of other places. Back during Obama and over the last 10 years, they had a lot of those same open border policies that we're now seeing being addressed under Trump, where they had people coming in from out of the country, all the migrants and mass import of people from a variation of countries, and they were committing massive amount of crimes. They were assaulting people, raping women. There were, points where you had, just to give everyone like back when, not at the point that they're at now when their economy is much worse off. Especially now we've seen like with the Nord Stream and all these things that have been going on to hit Europe. They had like old women, like grandmothers, and they would be defending their communities, their little neighborhoods with like rakes and stuff. And so, the tensions and the dissatisfaction with a lot of the government policies and selling out Greece's industry has been very long-standing, especially for those people who just come into the country and don't respect the culture.
Well, I think that, and I don't want to speak too broadly, but and I don't want to talk about the intelligence and where it came from, for fear that they would be stopped in their attempts. But and I think that's what you're probably hesitating on, and which is good. So we'll leave it at that the people of Greece have had enough, and the young people have seen this as the hill to die on. So I would not be surprised if over the next summer you see some very serious things happening where the constructs of their government are destroyed, and that the people that have rooted the people that are CIA people, because we do cause a lot of harm across the world, are rooted out as well. It's happening.
Yeah, they definitely have an office over there.
Yeah, no question. You know what else is happening in I want you to see this. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Peter Sajorto declared that Hungary would not provide any financial aid to Ukraine and would veto any attempt by Brussels to fast-track Kiev's accession to the European Union. Let's go ahead and play this. I'll probably read it as it comes across the bottom. Let's go ahead and play it.
Ukrajna területén Európai
Military trainers from the European Union should not conduct training programs for Ukrainian soldiers on Ukrainian territories as pose a serious risk of escalating the war towards Europe. For us, this is a red line. No element of this military training mission should take on Ukrainian territory. We do not want the European Union to send military trainers or military advisors to Kiev, as they present a serious danger in terms of escalating the war. So the good part about what he's saying is that he's getting to the bottom of what's happening in Ukraine. Apollo, who was the first one to come out and say, I will back Russia in this war every day, twice on Sunday?
Oh, you were very vocal about this. Because all the mainstream media said, no. This is Russian disinformation. Ukraine good, Russia bad.
Yeah. What Ukraine is, or what Hungary is also doing on top of that, to get rid of these globalists. And let me tell you something. It's not happening fast enough for me, but I feel like being at the tip of the spear has been, you are seeing some progress. Today was a better day than yesterday. Yesterday, I thank you for letting me be your I don't know, just letting me vent. But here's the thing from the AP News. Hungary passes constitutional amendment to ban LGBTQ public events seen as a major blow to rights. This is what they say. It's a major blow to rights. Hungary Parliament on Monday passed an amendment to the Constitution that allows the government to ban public events by LGBTQ communities, a decision that legal scholars and critics call another step towards authoritarianism by the populist government. The amendment, which required a 2/3 vote, passed along party lines with 140 votes for the 21 against. It was proposed by the ruling Fidesz KDNP coalition led by populist Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Ahead of the vote, the final step in the amendment, opposing politicians and other protesters attempted to blockade the entrance to the Parliament parking garage. Police physically removed demonstrators who had used zip ties to bind themselves together. The amendment declares that children's rights to moral, physical, and spiritual development supersede the right of any other right to life, including that to peacefully assemble. Hungary's contentious child protection legislation prohibits the depiction or promotion of homosexuality to minors under the age of 18. The amendment codifies a law that fast-tracked through Parliament in March that bans public events held by LGBTQ communities, including the popular Pride event in Budapest that draws thousands annually. Whew. All right. So not a very popular thing for me to say here. I'll tell you this. Good. Nothing about this stops anyone from doing what they want in the confines of their own home. I want to be very clear. I don't care if you're gay. It's between you and your creator, God. That's between you and God. I don't care. You dance around the stage like a little fairy unicorn like Pressler does. That's not sexuality. That's you being a deviant. That's you trying to accentuate or create deviant behavior inside of the conservative movement. That's you trying to whitewash and make the Democrats and the Republicans look the same. What you do in your own home, as long as you are not doing it with a child and you're two consenting adults, I will let God handle all of that. But you take it to the street is a sign of recruitment and grooming. When you put it in schools and you put up flags and you treat people differently if they come out as bisexual or transgender or some of the other just ridiculousness they have in this you've brought everybody into it. You're like LGBTQ plus, and the plus is supposed to be anybody that accepts us where we are. No, that's not the case. You're creating an environment of perversion, an environment of deviancy, an environment that allows for other people to be recruited, people that are in bad situations in their homes. The most vulnerable among us, as far as children, are the most likely to end up in this place where they can be groomed into some deviant behavior. Bad family environment. Dad's gone, mom works all the time, child feels alone. Teacher swoops in and says, "Oh, I got you. Here's your flag. You might be a girl. Come home with me." And we saw that over and over and over happen over and over and over again. And yet, Hungary was the first one to have the balls to do something about it and recognize it for what it is. Be gay. I don't care. Man, you can be, you could put on little hooves and walk around like a horse. I don't care. But leave our children alone. Don't parade it and flaunt it out in the middle of public as if this is just something that everyone should aspire towards. And you'd say, well, you need to. And I've talked to my gay friends. Joe, you don't have gay friends. Why not? They don't put their gayness on me. What do I care? I'm very confident in who I am. Well, I pray for them. My business partner's a gay, married Jewish father of two. Probably one of the most amazing men you'll ever meet. And he said, that can't be true. Well, I'll tell you what, he's gay, stayed married, raised his two kids the right way, did everything to volunteer and do what he needed to do to protect his family. I don't know of many heterosexual men that would do that. And if they did, well, 50% of the population is divorced. And if you get married a second time, so it's actually like 75% or 80%. I don't care that he's gay. You shouldn't care. Yeah, you want them to have salvation. It goes against God's word. But love them where they are, not where you want them to be. And guess what? You might actually get somewhere. Look at, what's this guy's name? Milo? Is it Milo? Yiannopoulos, yeah.
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos.
He was gay. He came out and denounced it and says, I'm not gay. I made a decision that I'm going to, he got rid of whatever it was that I can't explain it. Everybody wrote the guy off. Comes out, he's like, yeah, I'm not gay. You don't even know if he was actually recruited and groomed through that whole process either. On one side, everyone you want to have this, you got this Muslim community Sharia law happening in Texas and all over the country. And it's right. Look, I speak Arabic. I've read the Quran from end to end. I know all the teachings of Jesus, Isa al-Messiah, Jesus the Messiah, in the Quran. There's more teachings about Jesus in the Quran than there is in the Bible. I understand that the story of Mary and Jesus is in the Quran, just as it is in the Bible. I use that for common ground, just to create a place where we can talk about who Jesus is. They believe he was the perfect prophet. But you could get people that could say that they were a Muslim follower of Jesus. So there is work to be done to actually bring people to a place where you don't want to call about conversion, but you want to bring that there is only one God. There is only one God. And while everyone is out running around saying that these deviants can do whatever they want, you talk to almost all the deviants out there that want to run around and do flamboyant stuff, what they are. And here's what they aren't. They're not believers in anything but themselves. They're self-centered. You look at Yuval Noah Harari. You look at Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, talk about becoming gods that hide behind what they consider a superior ethnicity, being Jewish. Not Jewish from a faith base, but Jewish from a, I'm different. This idea that they're superior. But they're not. But those are the people that are doing the most harm everywhere, because they're the ones that want to promote this deviancy. The George Soros, the Open Society, legalizing the prostitution of women. Go check it out yourself. Go to georgesoros.com. I'm not lying about it. We have done so much in our country to protect certain things, and then we accept when we lose a battle, we just go back and like, oh, we lost that battle. Let's maybe go back out there. We don't continue to fight. Do we want to get to a place where we're like the UK? Where you can't say, God bless the United States? We're almost there. We are almost there. I'm going to continue to fight. You're going to continue to fight. I'm really grateful for people like Christina Bobb. She's outstanding. And I'm really grateful for Mayor Giuliani and for Donald J. Trump. I'm really grateful for people that have stood up and fought, that just weren't mouthpieces, but truly fought. And I'm grateful for you, because you are here and you listen to this message and you take it and you use it as a stick, as a sword to inform other people about what's really going on in our country. So thank you. And with that said, I got to go. I'm over my time. I went too long. What time is it, Apollo?
5 after 4.
Well, it's not too far after. All right, so I'm just going to do some honeydews before I get to others. We're going to have some great people on over the next couple days, next couple weeks. It's going to be amazing.
Leah's on tomorrow.
Leah Hoops?
Correct.
Awesome. She's amazing. Yeah, so we're going to have some great guests. We are, for those that are on the audio version, we have Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We got the new, Todd is currently working on some stuff on our side to help us. I've contracted out to get the stuff done on the site, so you'll have more access. We'll be inviting other people to come in and to do their own shows and to have a free platform. I do want to thank everyone that uses Untamed Nation as a place where they listen to the podcast, because I do know that it gets squatted on pretty hard by Rumble. They've done everything they can to kind of interfere with that deal. Let me just say this. You're the ambassadors of truth. Okay? You got to decide what is and is not true, support or not support it, things that I'm saying, things that I'm not saying. But on the audio version, we are going to be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're going to be on SoundCloud too. We're going to be having a conversation with them. I just found out that we're on this thing for FM. So we're on even more radio stations. So if you're on those radio stations, just drop me a line, tell me what station you're on so that we can start connecting with those radio stations as well to expand our reach. If you're on the BEK network, I just want to say thank you. And then as it pertains to the going forward, I am going to convert our podcasts. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get this done into four main languages so that when I speak, it is going to sound like I'm speaking Spanish, poquito español, or Russian, or Arabic, Arabia. So we're going to have four main languages where you can actually, we can actually reach in and talk to other countries around the world to let them know that they're not alone. Yeah, maybe we'll do it in Greek. I don't know. We're trying to figure out how we're going to put this together. But the idea is that we want to be able to create a message where they can understand what's happening in the United States clearly in their own native tongue. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about things that are happening down in South and Central America. And, I've committed myself to bringing on people that are left, but you guys got to be tolerant as well when I do that. Because a lot of times you're not. I'm done talking to this guy. This guy's an idiot. And I'm like, all right, enjoy the entertainment value, but listen so that we can actually get to a place where we can strategize. If we're in an echo chamber, we can't strategize on how to get the truth in front of them. And by the way, I ate that guy up, Apollo. That's pretty good.
No, yeah, there was conversation for a little while, and then it got a little.
And he didn't want to talk about it once I got through it. It was good.
No, he squirreled after he realized he was pinned.
All right. What do we got here? Who is Chris? Yeah, I can't even get on to Rumble right now. This is crazy. All right. Let's see, Chris. Et pour le petit pou? Is that French? Chris, is that French? That better not be French. Is that French? Joe Untamed is on my radar. Speaks plenty of French. Already speaks plenty of French. I do not. Jeff, come on now. I'm not that way. Okay, I'm reading your stuff. Stephanie Zimmerman, it's a communist idolatry. CCP is DEI. I agree with that. By the way, I did put up a post talking about Miles Guo. Whatever happened to him? Why isn't he out of jail? Why hasn't there been a presidential pardon against him? He just exposed the CCP. So if we're gonna kind of go after China, there's just little things that they could be doing. Frankly, it would be really easy to just stick it to the Chinese. So if you get Miles Guo out of jail, Mr. President, I don't know, might be worth doing. All right, let's pray it out, shall we? Paulo, you have anything?
Check out Honorbound, and then make sure you check out dcfguns.com as well.
Yeah, we got a thing coming up. It's called Liberty Fest. I'm going to have country singers there. It's going to be spectacular. We're going to have a beer garden right next door. We're going to seal off the entire area. I'll be there. We'll have a little stage area that we're building. It's going to be ridiculous. Yeah, you can also train with John Tigtigan. He's a pretty cool guy. But we're going to be having this huge thing called the Liberty Fest. It's in July. I think it's the week after. I don't know yet. I think it's a week after the 4th of July. I don't know. I will find out. Or a fireworks display. Every year, 40, 50,000 people. I would love it if all of you just came out for this event and just hung out with me for the weekend. It might be, it's a one-day affair, but we also have one down at the West Store, down south, and the East Store. So we'll have the East and West. I don't want to leave them all out, but we'll have some music. 2 of the 3 stores. But great sales, giving away a bunch of ammo and doing some great things. I do have the NRA CEO coming on. And I have the guy that works in Colorado for the NRA that's going to be coming on the show, I think Thursday. So it's July 23rd. Liberty Fest is July 13th at DCF Castle Rock and East, and July 23rd at DCF West. So it's 2 weeks apart. You guys can all come out and hang out with me, buy a gun or two. You can buy long guns, can't buy short guns if you're out of state. And if you're in California, you're just screwed. So sorry. Should be pretty fun. Okay. Was that the new one? Just went out? DCF? Post? Okay.
That post was a couple days ago.
Give away a free trip. All right, let me think about that. All right, buy me out of my free Tina stickers, and I'll do a trip. Buy me out so that we can help take care of this. Also, you'll see some stuff out there about Judge Matthew Barrett. I've got some breaking stuff about that deviant, and some of the things that you're going to hear about, you're not going to believe, but it's absolutely true. Yes, you can go over there and then get a bunch of free Tina stickers. So go buy some free Tina stickers. If I see that go up dramatically over the next couple of days, I'll jump right on that. All right, let's fly. Pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for the time that we were able to spend today with Christina Bobb. Thank you for her insights. Thank you for the spirit you've given her of forgiveness. She's amazing, Father. You've put her in the place that she needs to be. So I would ask you to protect her and to give her peace. I would ask you to give her the ability to have wisdom in how she interacts with these cases that she's filing. And Father, I'd ask you to give her the ability to maneuver the evil apparatuses that she has to interact with, and that they may capitulate and give up the information that is necessary in order to expose more of the bad things that are being done to the American people. Father, we're grateful for Christina Bobb and for the commitment that she's given for the last 5 years. And we ask you to guide her into a place where she can enter into leadership and do great things, and continue to work towards the ultimate goal, which is restoring you to our community and to our country. I thank you, Father, for the people that we have in the audience that have been standing up for the last 5 years. I thank you for the ones that are doing the thankless jobs, that are plowing the fields without any sort of search for recognition. They, Father, are the ones that have brought more wheat to harvest and more change to our communities and to our country. So I'm grateful for them, Father, and I just ask you to lift the burden off their shoulder. Father, I ask you to guide me in a way that I can do your work and relieve me of the frustration that I have, and to bring me to a place selfishly where I can have peace. And I ask you, Father, to ask this publicly for everyone, to protect my wife. She's taking a couple-week trip in some not so fun, but a risky environment. So I just ask you to keep her safe for those 2 weeks, Father. I ask these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Say a prayer. I'll say a prayer for you. Quid pro quo Joe, buy some stickers. Yeah. Yes. That's exactly right, Gatorbait. I'm glad you said it. Quid pro quo. Go buy stickers and cards and hats. Can't buy this one, though. You see that, though? 47. It's as if the Ferrari dealer knew that President Trump was coming back in. I've had this hat for a couple of years. Anyway. All right. God bless you. Talk to you guys soon. I'll see you tomorrow.